Oh, yeah. I've been talking about robbing it.
You're live. Is your heart beating right now?
Lord, prepare me.
That's like 8 of you, some of you girls. That's like 7 of you guys. He takes it from his chest and pushes you in the air. He also holds the world record for the most reps at 700 pounds. He benches it not once, not twice, not 3 times, but he puts 700 pounds in the air 4 times. That also is a world record. At this point, I want you to give a big Owensboro High School welcome to Mr. Julius Maddox.
I hate speaking out so Drew. It's like, why did he come out?
Is everybody excited to have us here today? Let's go. I'm grateful. These guys that are here with me, we're alumni here at Owensboro High School. Listen, we cause havoc in these schools, not to brag about it. Just one instance real quick, we almost didn't graduate. Our senior year, me, Chad, and Nick almost didn't graduate. We had a talent show in 2005, and we decided to do the song Lovers and Friends. Anybody know what the song Lovers and Friends is? I feel like a fossil now. Anyway, we proceeded. The song was very inappropriate. They cut the song off, ring the bell, and the audience still kept singing the song. So, anyway, just poor story. You guys didn't think it was funny. I thought it was funny. But right now, I'm going to introduce Nick Martin.
I feel like Drew's introduction was a lot hyper than mine. It's like 700-pound bench presser, Julius Maddox. You want to know what I did? I won the pie eating contest at the barbecue fest. Yeah. That's about all I did. No, but really, I'm so honored to be here. I did some research on what Red Ribbon Week came from and what the goal of it is. And if you didn't know, in 1985, a DEA agent got murdered while he was investigating a drug cartel. What stemmed from that is they created a Red Ribbon Week to keep the fight against drugs and violence. And that has, as we know, that fight still continues today. So for me, growing up in Owensboro, my mom was involved in drugs, my dad, both of them had been to federal prison.
About what you want in life, whatever you want in life.
Every single one of my brothers have been to jail and prison, and I just kind of made excuses and fell into their footsteps. But instead of taking personal responsibility for my choices, I just blamed my environment and blamed my parents and blamed my brothers in why I made the decisions that they made. I would always say things like, if I was born somewhere else, I would probably be a doctor. If I had different parents, I would probably be a teacher. Well, all that sounds good until you're 30 years old still saying the same thing, always blaming everybody else. So I remember in school, I would get in trouble. And it was never my fault, it was always the teacher who didn't like me. And then I went to jail, and it was the guy who told on me, or it was the police officer's fault, or it was always, someone else's fault other than my own. But in reality, I had every opportunity to be successful that everyone else had. If I wanted to be a lawyer, I could have been a lawyer. If I wanted to be a doctor, I could have been a doctor. So I graduated high school in 2005 from here. And a funny story is, one time they had an all-A ceremony on the football field. And I snuck out of class and went, and all the teachers just dropped their head and they said, "Nick Martin, you are not supposed to be out here." So I barely graduated by the skin of my teeth. But I found myself in 2006 at Western Kentucky University. But in that time, I made a lot of poor choices that would end me up with a 10-year prison sentence in jail. So as all my friends would go on to graduate college and get their 4-year degree. I would be incarcerated from 2006 until 2010. But still, I blamed everyone else. I took no personal accountability. I would always say, if that guy would have just not said anything, if he would have just shut his mouth, I wouldn't be in jail today, or the judge gave me too much time. So after being locked up for like 2 years, I go up for a thing called parole. And while I was going up for parole, you sit in front of this board, like Rob, Chad, and Jew, and they ask you, hey, why are you in here? Why did you do what you did? So they said, hey, Mr. Martin, tell me why you're in here and why we should let you out. And I said, I made a mistake. In a moment I'll never forget, they all jump out of their chairs and they say, a mistake is when you grab the wrong tray. A mistake is when you put on the wrong socks in the morning. A mistake is not when you commit robbery. He said, I'm going to give you a few more seconds to tell me why I should let you out and why you're in here. And I sat there speechless. And in 2 minutes, he made the determination, hey, Nick Martin, spend the next 2 years of your life, and maybe you'll come back with a better answer than I made a mistake. So then I get out after 4 years, but I'm still doing the same things. I still don't take any personal accountability for my choices. I still kind of run with the same friends. I still kind of hang out with the same groups. It's always their fault. It's always someone else's fault other than my own. Until I found myself in the same situation again, and I had to look into the mirror. It was nobody's fault but my own, and I was responsible for every choice that I made, good or bad. So each one of you, right now, what you have is an opportunity. You have an opportunity to make something of your life. And what you do with that opportunity will determine where you end up. So some of you, unfortunately, may end up in a situation like I ended up in. Some of you may go on to be teachers. But it all starts with the choices that you make right now. A few years ago, my nephew made a choice to go to a party where he would lose his life. My nephew Rex, he would die at the hand of gun violence. And a few months ago, I would sit in this trial and I would just think about all the choices that led up to that moment and all the things that had to happen for that to go on. And I just thought of, what if they made different choices that night? What if there was no party? What if drugs wasn't glorified? What if guns wasn't glorified? Would my nephew still be here today? So that's the reality of every choice that you made is a lot bigger than you think. I'm sure when he went to that party that night, he didn't think, hey, this will be my last day on earth. And I'm sure if he could come back, he would make a different choice. So everything you do, from the people that you surround yourself with, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. If you want to be a millionaire, you'll hang out with millionaires. But on the reverse of that, if you want to be a clown, then you'll hang out with clowns and you'll do what clowns do. So my parents would always say, hey, you're going to end up in jail like your friends. And I would say, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just old. You're outdated. And guess what? Me and all my friends ended up in jail, in rehabs, all doing the same things. Because we had no one around us that held us accountable. We had no one else around us to call us out for the choices that we were making. So my life didn't change until I had a kid, still making poor choices, and Julius tells me, hey, my wife's going to divorce me. She's going to leave me. But coming from a broken home, I didn't want that to happen. So Julius tells me, hey, I'm going to send you to this counselor. I'm going to send you to this counselor tonight. And this counselor looked at me dead in my eyes and said, Nick Martin, you're here because the choices that you made. And one day your daughter is going to be walked down the aisle by another man. And guess what? It's all your fault. And that was the reality. I was about to lose my family. I had spent 4 years in jail. I had been reckless over and over and over again. And it was all about a byproduct of the decisions that I was making. So I challenge you today to think about the decisions that you make. Because we all have the same 24 hours. We all have the same opportunity. And what you do with it is what's going to determine your life. So Chad's going to come up here, and he's going to tell you a little bit about his story. But again, I just want you to think about the choices that you're making.
I got this on right? Yep. Hooked on there? Nope. That was hooked on. Oh, look. Oh. Put me on there. You good?
Yep.
Turned on?
Yep.
OHS, what's up? Evan, they can do better than that. OHS, what's up? Hey, I'm grateful to be here. Not only sharing the platform with Julius and Nick, but getting to come back home. You see, this is home for me. This is where it all started. And as Julius said, we was a bunch of class clowns. And we were trying to fit in. And fitting in didn't work out for me, it didn't work out for Julius, and it didn't work out for Nick. Because you were not born to fit in. You were born as your own person, and you were born to stand out. Fitting in, February 11, 2019, I found myself in the hospital. And for 16 years, weed was the drug of my choice. And for 16 years, I allowed weed to run my life, no matter what else I was doing. And February 11, 2019, I ended up in the hospital with severe anxiety, chronic depression, suicidal thoughts, and life was in the deep, dark spot, somewhere I didn't want to be, somewhere I never thought I would be. As I said, when I graduated from OHS, I was a class clown. I wanted to make everybody laugh. I wanted to have a good time. And some 15, 16 years later, I look up and I find myself in the hospital in the darkest spot of my life. And the doctor recommended that I would take these pills just in case I had been going through this moment. February 11, 2019, 4 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and have this chills all over my body, something I've never felt before. And it scared me to death. I'm not a guy that goes to the hospital. I try to be that macho man. And my wife was on her way to work that morning, and I told my wife, I said, you can't leave me here by myself. She said, what do you mean? I said, you can't leave me here by myself because I don't know what's going to happen. She said, Chad, we need to go to the hospital. So I put my pride and my ego aside, and we went to the hospital. And the doctor hooks me up to all these wires, and he comes in and he says, Chad, panic attacks, chronic anxiety, severe depression, and I'm going to need you to prescribe these pills just in case this happens again, because we don't want you to take your own life. And that was tough. That was a tough pill to swallow. And I told the doctor, I said, I'm not willing to take a pill in order to save my life. I wanted to overcome this through the power of the Lord Jesus Christ. And that was something I was wrestling with as my wife stood there in the hospital room with me, and she said, Chad, I'm going to get these pills for you because she loved me enough that she didn't want to see me suffer. And you need people around you that love you enough that when you're in a dark spot, they're willing to help pull you out of that. So I thank God for my wife. So we leave the hospital, I go home, and I had some weed left in my drawer, and she goes to Kroger's to get the medicine. And as she's gone to Kroger's, I'm home by myself, and I take the weed and I flush it down the toilet. And I hit my knees and I pray and I ask God, I don't want to die in the way I'm living. I would rather live for you than die in the way I'm living. Now, I have flushed weed down the toilet plenty of times, whether it was from being paranoid from being too high, whether it was feeling like the police was at the door, whatever it was. But that day, I wasn't speaking from my mind. When we speak from our mind, we allow the devil to grab hold of it. I was speaking from the heart, and God knew it. And that day, February 11, 2019, I decided I want to live my life a different way. And my wife came back with those pills and put them in the medicine cabinet. And we are now approaching 4 years. February 11th, 2023 will be my 4-year sobriety. And those pills, June the 1st of last year, me and my wife bought our first house. And those pills went in the trash can. I never had to take one. And in life, we talk about choices. And these guys were guys who poured into me through all those dark days. Rob, Nick, Julius, text me, Chad, you okay? Chad, do I need to come talk to you? Chad, can we go to eat? Can we go get coffee? How can I pray for you? Nick, constantly. Chad, how can I pray for you? So again, make wise choices. Make sure that you surround yourself with people who love you and who's going to help pull you from the dark. Every day I wake up, and I'm going to leave you with this. 2 of the hardest words that we have to live with for the rest of our life are what if. What if I would have worked harder in school? What if I would have studied for that test a little bit longer? What if I would have made better choices? And every day I go home and I look myself in the mirror, that guy's looking back. I call him self. And if I don't do what I was supposed to do that day, self gets to look back at me and say, Chad, what if? And I have kids who depend on me. I have a wife who depends on me. And there's a lot of kids in this crowd who depend on me on Monday nights, Thursday nights, and Friday nights, because I'm on the sidelines and I get to pour in you, and I'm grateful for that. Hey, let's go Devils.
Y'all want to go ahead and play video? Play the video? Y'all ready to see this video? So this video was done in 2021 in Miami, Florida. About what you want in life. Whatever you want in life, speak it, write it down, and go after it. Go get it. 782 pounds for Julius Maddox. I heard a quote about recently, and the quote says, if you think the cost of pain or the cost of success is a lie, wait till you see the cost of regret. If you think the cost of success is a lie, then wait till you see the cost of regret. What that tells me is I remember from 2005 until 2015, I could not stand showing up here at Owensboro High School. I didn't want to be on the football field. I didn't want to drive by here simply because I was living in regret. You see, I was born and raised here in Owensboro, Kentucky, dysfunctional family, things that I would see in my household. I remember being woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning to my mom and dad fighting because my dad was too drunk to get up off the couch to take my mom to work. And many times that I see my mom in the projects in the Rolling Heights walk up this long hill in the snow and freezing temperatures to go to work to provide for me and my brother. And I remember thinking, I'll never put my family in that situation. I'll never be that guy to go to prison. I'll never be that guy to commit crimes or do things that I shouldn't be doing. I will never be that guy. And guess what? 2012, I found myself in a jail cell facing a 10-year prison sentence. See, early on, Chad was talking about fitting in, right? And that's all I desired was to fit in. I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to be the cool kid. I wanted people to like me. You know, as a human, we desire to have community. We desire to be in fellowship with other people. We love to have friends, whether you would like to admit it or not. And because I desired that so much, I was willing to compromise in any facet that I could to be in the center of attention or to be popular, to have girlfriends and just to be at parties and be welcomed by people. I desired that so much that I was willing to compromise and do whatever I wanted to do to make sure I was in the center of the spotlight. And let me tell you what, that catches up with you real fast. When I went through here in Owensboro High School, I was a very talented athlete. Many coaches and teachers are still here today. They'll tell you, yes, Julius was a great athlete. But guess who was in my way? Who was in my way stopping me from being the greatest football player to probably come out of the state of Kentucky? It was me. It was me. I decided to. I remember after a basketball game against Davis County, about 2001, I dressed out varsity basketball, and one of the seniors came up to me and was like, hey man, we're having a party. You want to come hang out with us? I'm like, yes. This is what I've been longing for. I remember as a kid, I always felt like I was in a box. Like nobody wanted to be around me. I could never talk to anybody. So this was my moment. I'm in the in crowd now, right? So I remember going to this party, and at that party, it was in December of 2001, I had my first drink of alcohol. And, you know, we was at a party that was passing out beers, and just because I wanted to fit in so much that I drank my first beer. Do y'all realize that 60% of high school students either know that there's drugs in the school right now, have used drugs in the school, or have sold drugs in the high school? 60%. 60%. 1 out of every 5 students have either used drugs, know someone who's using drugs, or somebody directly close to them has used drugs. So, and these are things that's a reality for us. It's around. And for me, I was willing to compromise so much that I didn't know that I was compromising my own life, my own future. The choices you make now, right now, can alter the trajectory of your future. And once you start compromising, meaning putting yourself in a position to fail, it happens over and over again. It becomes habit, right? So the next year, my sophomore year, and keep in mind, guys, I was that kid that was in youth group during the week, youth group on Sundays, and I was out running the streets robbing people during the week while I was in high school. And I'm not bragging about it by any means. I remember thinking, I had this mental tally board in my head that I said I would never have sex before marriage, I would never use drugs, I would never commit a crime, I would graduate high school, I'd go on to graduate college. I didn't graduate high school, but all those other things, I didn't graduate college, but all those other things, those accolades, mark them off. I've marked off every single thing that was bad for me off that list. And it's crazy to think because I never thought I was going to be that kid. At this point, some of you guys don't think that your future is going to be heading in a direction that's going to change your life forever in a bad way, but because the decisions that we make today could possibly alter our future. So as I went on, continued to do the dumb stuff that I did, ended up graduating high school, went on to Western Kentucky University, still involved in different levels of drug trafficking. And before long, selling drugs became my priority instead of going to class, just running up and down the interstate. And that went on until 2012. 2012, I got busted for trafficking mail through U.S. Postal Services, prescription pills, and marijuana, and that's when my life really started to change. During that season, I had been in and out of jail from the time I graduated high school until 2012. I've probably been to jail 30 some odd times, and this time there was no bonding out. I couldn't pay a lawyer enough. There was no bond. That means you're gonna stay in jail until you go to court, period. And I just found myself in a dark place. I had burnt every single bridge. Nobody wanted to be around me anymore. I became the person that I said I would never be. Remember as a kid, like I said, I never thought that I would be that guy. Because of the decisions that I made, I became that guy. So it's like now it's a curse. It's a curse. Once you open the door and enter in drug addiction, you can never rid it. The rest of your life, no matter how long you've been off drugs, you still have that, whatever they call it, monkey on your shoulder. I don't know a poor analogy, but it's still there. It's still poking you in the back for the rest of your life. Again, whenever you open that door and decide to start using drugs and drinking alcohol and you get addicted, that feeling of wanting to use drugs and alcohol, it never goes away. It never goes away. You will deal with that battle for the rest of your life. And some of you are thinking you're on your phones and you're looking around and you're talking and you think this thing called life is a game. Just wait. Because some of you next year is going to be your time where you're an adult and you're going to have to grow up and life is going to hit you. And when life hits you hard. So the point I'm trying to make today is, guys, you are a makeup of your 5 closest friends. Nick said, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. You have to watch the people that you surround yourself with. It's crazy because, I had a lot of positive people pouring into me, but I was willing to listen to my friends more than I was willing to listen to somebody to push me in a successful direction. So as I continue to live that lifestyle, it gets worse. You just travel down this hole and it's like you don't see any light. Like I said, once you start, so the biggest lie that I ever believed when somebody told me, they said, drugs are horrible, they make you feel horrible, all the above. But the first time I used drugs, I fell in love. I fell in love the first day. The first time I used drugs, I fell in love. And it made me think like, y'all were just lying the whole time. But what they don't tell you is once you get addicted to those drugs, how bad your life turns out. In the past 8 years, I've had 10 people die of drug overdoses that are directly connected to me. In the past 10 years, and these are people that are directly connected to me. 10 people have died from drug overdoses that I know. And it does nothing but get worse. So as I continue to live that lifestyle, like I said, I got busted in 2012. I was faced at the time, I had a daughter. She was getting ready to turn 1. This is when the paradigm shift, when things really started to change in my life, was I was faced with an encounter. On my daughter's first birthday, I was locked up, facing a 10-year prison sentence, and I told the mother of my child at the time, which is my wife now, I said, don't bring her up here for her birthday. She just had her 11th birthday yesterday. She's 11 now. But I told her, I said, don't bring her up here for her birthday. I just didn't want to see her. Even though she was 1, I didn't want my 1-year-old daughter seeing me behind a 2-inch thick piece of glass in a visitation room. And not only that, I was afraid that my daughter wouldn't recognize me because I ain't seen her in like 4 months because I've been locked up. And I just remember I still have this vivid picture in my mind. I'm sitting down at this visitation table. There's a 2-inch thick piece of glass dividing us. I'm sitting on a stool and my daughter's standing up trying to touch the glass and she turns around and we made eye contact. And she looked at me and just tried to touch me through the glass. And it was like she spoke to me. I know it's weird. I'm not one of those. Hold on. Yo. So she tried to touch me through this glass. And it just hit me. The thought that was in my mind was, Daddy, why can't I touch you? And in that moment, I realized that my actions didn't just affect me. My actions affected everybody that was directly associated with me. And that's when things started to change. They tell you, you see true change, you'll see true change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. Means it was so painful for me to live in that lifestyle that I was living that it started to be a breeze once I started to change. And I got up out of that booth, they removed me because I was crying, so I broke down in tears, like weeping like a baby, right? And they pulled me out of the cell, they pulled me out of the visitation room, sent me back to my cell, and that's when things really started to change. I no longer cared about how much money I had, what kind of car I drove, who I was dating, where the parties was at. I didn't care about that stuff no more. All I cared about was getting out of jail to being a father to my kids and raising my kids. Because the chances of my daughter doing the same things that I was doing was in the 70th percentile and up. When you live that lifestyle, it doesn't just affect you, it affects everybody around you. So I ended up getting to go to a place called Friends of Sinners, and it's a Christ-centered recovery program, and that's where I learned how to be a man. That's where I learned how to lead my family. That's where I learned how to be a pillar in my community. And that's where I learned how to set a goal and achieve a goal. And it's like, I've never been an overachiever in my life. I've always been an underachiever. I've always been that guy that never seen myself being greater than anything. I've always seen myself as just being, uneducated, illiterate, just the bottom of the barrel. That's who I thought I was. That's what I believed. Who was telling me that? Who was telling me that? I was in my way. I was the one that was stopping me from being successful. The only thing that was in between being successful was me. The only thing that's between you and success is you. You. That's it. You. So just remember that. Just please remember that little piece of information. So I'm in this season where once you use drugs, you're way up here. Remember I talked about like people said drugs were so bad, which they are bad. Drugs are bad, but they make you feel good. Drugs make you feel amazing, right? And I'm not bragging about it. I'm just telling you that in your mind, they make you feel amazing because of what it does to your body. And it releases this natural dopamine in your brain, and you feel amazing. You feel invincible. But nobody talks about day 10, day 20, year 5, year 10, or when you're in a wooden box 6 feet in the ground. Nobody talks about that. This music that we listen to, this rap music that glorifies drugs, money, and guns, nobody talks about the aftermath, what that leads to. And I'm here to tell you that it all equals death. We can brag about it, laugh about it, talk about it, whatever you want to do, but I'm telling you, at the end of that road is emptiness. And I experienced emptiness like no other. And I said that day, when I hit my knees, I said, I'll never do this again. I said, I'm going to stand up for what I believe in, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to be a man, and I'm going to put feet on it. And I've been doing it ever since. So once I started setting goals for myself, I realized that, hey, look, I can set a goal and I can achieve goals. Who is this new guy? And like I said, so real quick before I end, when you're on drugs, you're way up here, right? The more you use, you don't get to that point anymore. It gets less and less and less and less to the point to where when you only use drugs, the only reason why you use drugs is to feel normal. That's it. There is no more good times. There is no more partying. You feel horrible, right? So once I got off drugs, I was way down here because you don't feel normal. You just don't feel normal anymore. Every day you wake up, you hate yourself. You hate your lifestyle. So you have to basically do everything in your power to rewire the way that you think. And that's what I had to do for 5 years of my life. It's basically start all over and rewire the way that I thought. Because when you use drugs, all your happy feelings are associated with using drugs. That's it. Anything that you can think of about being happy is associated with using drugs. So I had to change that. And I believe that the Lord gave me the gift of lifting weights to change the way I seen life. And once I got a taste of it and I found out that I could make money lifting weights, it was on and popping, which led me to my first time that I was benching just down in a basement. I started in a basement. It looked like a dungeon, and now I'm on top of the world. I am the strongest bench presser in the history of the world. I had a feature on ESPN about 1.5 years ago. They've never, think about this, I was a junkie 8 years ago before that platform that day. Meaning I was the real junkie. Any kind of drug you can think of, I used it. They live streamed my event on ESPN platform. My event. Not Joe Blow from down the road, Julius Maddox event on ESPN. That's never been done before. Never been done before. And it all started off with me making a choice that says, hey, I'm going to be greater than I was yesterday. That's it. I said, I'm going to be greater than I was yesterday. And when you have that mindset, you start to leave those people that are holding you down. Right now, in this room, right now, there's people in here that are holding you back from becoming the best version of you. I know I said, yes, you're in your way, but a lot of times we allow people in our life that holds us back, right? So at this point, guys, I'm just here to tell you guys, I'm just here to warn you guys, be careful who you surround yourself with. If you're at a party and somebody pulls out drugs, or you know you're going to a party and there's supposed to be a gunfight, or people are talking about fighting, why show up? Why ruin your future for one incident? Why take the chance? Don't open the door, guys. I'll tell you over and over again, don't open the door because it is not worth it. You will be living with that curse for the rest of your life, and it never goes away. It never goes away. At this point, what my life looks like now, man, I'm a world-class athlete. I lift weights for a living. I'm a content creator. I get paid $5,000 just to show up and shake hands for 2 hours. Show up and shake hands and take pictures for 2 hours. That's what I get paid for. And it all started out with a choice. My ultimate goal is to reach an 800-pound bench press, which they said would never be possible. Then I'm going to go into a sport called strongman. And, man, I'm a dreamer, and I'm going to continue to dream. So, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you for having us out. Hey.
About what you want in life. Whatever you want in life, speak it, write it down, and go after it. Go get it.